attached.
But we did this as like tour to porta potty because they did have porta potties there that were super
I was like,
clean.
my standards get lowered super fast. Where like normally if I was driving with a pass and I saw, oh, they only have porta potties, I'm not gonna go there. And we're like, porta potty.
It's so funny. I remember many times in my life, like, stopping somewhere and be like, I'm not using that porta potty, get right back in and go. But we, like, were almost in tears over how exciting a porta potty was.
And there was trash cans, too, so I was throwing away trash.
That was
I was
good.
like, what kind of a trip is this?
This is amazing.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Molly.
And you're listening to the Two Sisters on Adventures podcast. Tahoe Rim Trail Edition.
Day 2.
Yep. So this was one of those mornings that was very slow. We had
even though we had a toilet.
I know. Imagine 2 more
Honestly,
hours.
When we left and it was not very early, I was like, oh my gosh, and we had a toilet. What were we doing? I think that's when there are the pros and cons of late season backpacking, shoulder season, if you will. I think we started our trip on the 26th of September. Mm-hmm. So this is the morning of the 27th, and gosh, there's so many pros, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to deal with 90
bugs,
degree
awesome weather.
Generally, probably not quite as much smoke from wildfires. Like Carrie said, no bugs. That is so nice. But in the morning, it is cold. First of all, the sun didn't even come up until like 6:50 a.m., which for 2 girls who don't love to get out of bed to begin
when it's so cold.
It was really chilly, and I think that's what I would attribute to like our very, very
we
slow
found that
start.
like the more layers we have to take off to put our hiking clothes on, the longer it takes. It takes a long time.
It does.
And you know what? If we have to go fast,
we can.
Yeah. But if we're like, well, we can still probably go 17 miles before the sun sets.
I know. In reality, it's like when you only have how many hours of daylight to deal with? Like 11.
Yeah.
You really should just be like, oh, every day is a hurry. But no.
It's like, I'm cold.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait here for 15 more minutes. Yes. But it was nice that morning. We didn't have to filter water because we'd carried all of our water. We didn't have to dig cat holes. We go to the bathroom whenever we wanted.
We saw the guy who was camping near us, but neither of us talked to him. I did like the wave and he did the head nod thing. And then he left probably an hour before us and he went the same direction we were going to go. And then I was like,
oh man, dang it. Should have talked to him. I used the picnic table to stretch. Yes, it was great. I didn't have to lay on the ground.
I sat on the picnic table while eating my oatmeal. It was just very civilized.
Yeah. Very civil of us. So we got our late start once again. But it was a day where there was a lot of good scenery. Yeah. But the scenery was like all pretty similar. And this was our real introduction to the crazy part of the Tahoe Rim Trail. Bike trails.
When we say bike trail, we're not talking paved bike path.
No.
We're talking a trail that I think is originally designed for mountain bikes.
Not for my for my bipedal body.
When they linked it all together to make it a continuous trail, it seems that probably about 70% of the Tahoe Rim Trail, maybe 60%, but it's multi-user, so it could be bikes or hikers, which is super different.
But this section seemed especially designed for bikes. Like, there are other areas where bikes can go, and it's not so bad, but this one was, like, one of those ones that, like, curves into the mountain and out of the mountain, and you gain 2 feet of elevation, so you can lose 2 feet of elevation, and you have, like, a rock that you could do a cool jump off of, but I'm not gonna do it. I've got a backpack on.
And there was this, like Carrie's talking about, it was 9 miles, and it's the one where I believe if you're hiking on an even day, they allow bikes to use it, and if it's an odd day, then they're not supposed to try to just reduce traffic. I guess it's super popular for biking, and
which
I can
probably
see why.
Makes sense because I bet it's an awesome bike trail.
Honestly, but I had to write in my journal at the end. I mean, it's dorky, but I was just like, this, like, these trails are made for bikes, and my body is not a bike.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, I think it would have been really, really fun to ride.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're just trying to hike,
it was
like
tough.
18 miles, I don't need to go in and out of the mountain and like make these beautiful, beautiful U-shaped turns instead of a switchback. So yeah, that got to be rough.
And this was the first day. So all of my previous aches and pains were like gone. I think they were just like the first day backpacking pains where you're like, everything hurts.
Yeah.
But then I started to get like this foot pain kind of on the outside of my right foot. And a lot of my mantra when I'm backpacking is, like, if you just keep walking, it'll walk itself out.
Yeah.
And that works 99% of the time. But in this 1% of the time, my, like, foot pain did not go away. So that kind of was another big deal for me that day.
Yeah.
One other thing that was kind of contributing to the overall, like, attitudes on this trip was we looked and there was all of a sudden a big, like, probably a 15-acre forest fire that we could see across the lake that was not there the day before.
No.
And I thought,
Which Carrie had seen that they were doing prescribed fire on the south end of the lake, so we knew that. But this is like by Tahoe City,
right on the west side.
And I was like, oh my gosh, a forest fire!
Yeah, that seems a little much.
And a fortunate part about a lot of the trail, with the exception of really the Desolation Wilderness, is you also have cell service. So that adds another component of civilization to a through hike, which was different for us. So I was able to go online and look up prescribed burns, and sure enough, the fire by Tahoe City was actually prescribed fire. So it was fine. But there was like 15 minutes where it was like, hey, no. I'm like, what is happening?
Oh, good. We drove here. And now we started, and now we're gonna have to go back to our car because it's on fire.
Oh my gosh! And we said we would never cross that road again.
Never cross that road again.
Oh no! But yeah, talking one more time about the cell service, it was super interesting because I do like the concept of wilderness and being outdoors and being limited in my ability to like communicate with the outside world. It's funny because we had our inReach, carried it with us, but half the nights Carrie would just text our nightly update from her phone, which was just kind of funny. And we talked to a couple, well, at least one hiker who was like, like my phone is like almost dead and my backup battery is all used, and I guess I probably shouldn't have like talked on the phone as much at the beginning of the hike.
And I'm like, that's fair because it's one of those things where you have to be disciplined to not use your phone.
Honestly.
Where typically it's like, oh, my phone's on airplane mode anyway, all I do is take it out for pictures, because if I turn off airplane mode, all it's gonna happen is I'm gonna drain the battery, you know?
Totally.
It was an interesting kind of blend of civilization. I mean, obviously when you have people on bikes and they're not, we only met 2 bike packers.
Yeah.
So it's like most of them, just came from their car, it's just so close to civilization. And there's, ski. We walked through like a ski resort this day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a really different concept from kind of our very backcountry style of adventures.
I had read a comment before we went from someone who said that he still felt like it felt remote
wilderness.
And like, not super touched by the work of people. And I would agree that, I mean, you could like see in the distance the lights of a city or the casinos, or we'd had cell service, but for the most part it did have a pretty good balance of at least feeling like you're outside,
and especially
but not the same as the John Muir Trail.
Not the same as the John Muir Trail,
not
or
the same
Glacier
as,
Peak Wilderness, or the North Cascades,
exactly.
like those areas where you feel like I am a remote like wilderness person.
Exactly.
And like here you'd start being like, I'm a remote wilderness person, and then like it's like a bike who's just right. Can you move?
And you're like,
actually, this was the day that a biker came up behind us, and it's so weird when you're on a bike trail. I had just turned and looked back at Molly, and I turned around, and I'm walking, and I think I hear something next to me, so I look, and it was a cyclist, and I was like, ah! And they were like, oh, I'm not an animal. Animals don't talk. I was like, you didn't talk either, sir, so what's that mean?
Another unique part of hiking in the end of September is that when you stop to have your lunch break, so we broke out the trail pizza, and it was so nice to feel excited to eat. Yay! We sat on a rock, and
we had chosen the shade originally.
Yeah.
Because it was very sunny, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. But then the shade was like, because it's late September and slightly chilly, it turned out that we like were on this rock and we like took off our shoes and like we're sitting there, but we were only huddled on one corner of the rock that still had a little dappled sunlight on it because the rest of the rock was shady. And then it's like a different feeling to be like hunched over,
actually
squeezing your knees to your chest, trying to conserve
I was
body
laying
heat?
Across the sunny part of the rock with my face and hands because I was trying to touch the warm part.
Exactly. So you gotta plan your rest breaks, even if it's warm and sunny while you're walking.
Yeah.
Try to keep some sun during your break, or I guess put on more layers, because otherwise then you're very chilly.
Yeah. So we rested for a little while, and then we're like, well, we're ready to go for sure now because I am cold.
Oh my gosh, for real.
But then the next kind of place that we came to was Twin Lakes, and I was so excited to see that they still had water. It's interesting because you can tell it's definitely not a year-round water source. You know, it's kind of grassy in the bottom, and it was super shallow. But it also was nice and cold because, again, the benefit of September hiking.
Oh, man.
You get that nice cold water.
Cold, delicious water.
Yeah, so we took a rest break there as well. And then saw some more and visited with some more bikers, actually. Remember that? Yeah. And they were just telling us what a nice time it was to be out there.
It was really
and
nice.
They were right, though. So it was nice because all the bikers we met on the trail were super nice as well. One other thing that we did that day was, so you kind of go through these areas where it'd be like a little bit, fewer people except for maybe cyclists. And then you'd go to these areas where it would be a trailhead that was very popular.
Yeah.
And one of those areas was, there was this...
Tahoe Meadows.
Yeah, Tahoe Meadows, which was a nice area. September is obviously not going to be the best time to visit it because it's just going to be like dead grass.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because, you kind of roll up there and it's like everyone smells amazing and you're filtering water.
Someone walks by or runs by and you just get like the wash of the smell of shampoo or a body that's clean. And then, like Carrie said, you're like crouched there, folded over in a ball to stay warm.
And it's a really dusty trail. So your legs are like super dusty. And you're filtering water from an area that's like 15 feet away from all the cars.
And people are, like, they're like,
they're used to it. It just feels funny.
It does feel a little odd to like be like, oh, I need to drink this water to stay alive.
Yeah, this is the only water.
You are going to go home and probably do whatever people do that have a house.
Yeah, home people. So that was just kind of funny. And then, it was a decent distance through the meadows, but the bad thing was...
I thought we were going to cross the road and like keep going.
Yeah,
but
I didn't realize we were going to walk through the meadows.
Yeah, we had like almost 2 miles of walking through the meadows with just like, once again, the mildest
right next to the car.
But
like right next to the highway, so it's always just funny because you're walking next to a like zoom zoom. There's like trucks going uphill, and then you're going up this incline that you barely notice, but you're like, man, I kind of feel like I'm working. So, and then we got to the parking lot.
No, before that, we got to this split off with an interpretive trail, and it's so funny because it's like, to the Mount Rose campground, it's like 1 mile or it's 1.6 via the interpretive trail, and I like look at Carrie after we've made this pact to never get off the trail because we have literally no extra time, and I'm like, do you want to take the interpretive trail? And we just like, trudge on.
So we did not take the interpretive trail, but I was going to talk about where we came to the spot where there were bathrooms and they were like literally destroying them.
Oh, that's funny. That's right. Yeah. That was like at the Tahoe Meadows
it's
like trailhead.
Cool. There's bathrooms here, and then it's like beep beep beep, and there's just like a truck destroying the bathrooms. Yeah. That's where this trail is just so funny. I say it just really blends like suffering on purpose, because if you're in the backcountry, you're like, well, I wouldn't get to be here without suffering a lot. But on this trail, you're like, look at all these people, and they're not suffering.
And I think Carrie and I have decided that Nevada must have some policy where they destroy the bathrooms every year and build new ones. Because they were destroying the bathrooms at Tahoe Meadows.
And then it took forever.
We hiked up, didn't do the interpretive trail, Mount Rose campground. We crossed another very busy
highway. You have to walk on a road.
And fortunately, once again, it was
such
pretty,
a blessing.
like so many cars, zoom, 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 zoom. And then when we get there, almost no cars. So we can run across. And then the most beautiful bathrooms at Mount Rose Summit was like, I was like, oh,
there was a spot where they must smell. They smell the snacks. They sell the snacks at the summer.
And of course, it's surrounded by a fence. So they're not destroying this bathroom, but they fenced it up.
Yeah.
There's even a spot where there's a foot pump and you can wash your hands with water. And I was like,
water.
Carrie, I want to climb the fence and go over there and wash my hands.
Pump would probably be like detached.
But we did this as like tour to porta potty because they did have porta potties there that were super
I was like,
clean.
my standards get lowered super fast. Where like normally if I was driving over the pass and I saw, oh, they only have porta potties, I'm not gonna go there. And we're like, porta potty.
It's so funny. I remember many times in my life, like, stopping somewhere and be like, I'm not using that porta potty, get right back in and go. But we, like, were almost in tears over how exciting a porta potty was.
And there was trash cans, too, so I was throwing away trash.
That was
I was
good.
like, what kind of a trip is this?
This is amazing.
Yeah. So then we started up the Mount Rose Trail, is that what it was called? Yeah. And that was a nice trail. It was finally, like, hike trail, not a bike trail. So that was nice, but... And of course, then you got like the trail runners who are going there after work and they're just stretching so much. I'm like, good for you. Yeah. But then that was actually when my foot pain really started affecting me. Like before, it had been like kind of sore all day. And then all of a sudden it was just like stabbing foot pain. So then I switched to my camp shoes and it just kind of felt like, oh, shoot, because we didn't want to dry camp. We hadn't really planned for dry camping that night. Plus, can you camp there outside? I guess you probably... I think we were through the area you couldn't camp.
We had.
But I also don't love camping like right next to a road. So we just kind of had to, it was one of those things where you're going, oh, am I going to make it? But then I just decided that I was. So I guess I did.
Yeah.
So it was nice though because it was more of a backcountry feel though.
Yeah.
The scenery was a little bit different.
The lighting was
was pretty. There were some fall colors, which half of the reason I wanted to hike this time of year is like, I want to see the fall colors. Forgetting that in California, I don't know when their fall colors show up. But it was just, that was a really nice, more trail
We met a guy who
aspect.
was doing just like a one-night backpack. He was going to stay on the arm up by Mount Rose.
Yeah.
And we were
so
super happy for him because he was like, I'm going to try to make it up there for sunset and sunrise. And we like rounded the corner getting close to Galena Falls, which we were going to camp above the falls that night. And we just like hear the piercing screams of so many children.
I want to say middle schoolers?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it's funny because they were just like running around and screaming. And
like,
I think there was an adult and there were these girls sitting there. And I was like, hey, are you guys camping here tonight?
And they just, like, it was so funny. She just looked at Molly just like so devastated. Yes.
And I was like, yay, cool.
I was just like, oh, these poor girls, they like don't look like they want to be out here, but they're actually doing something very cool.
I know. So I think at first we maybe would have camped at the bottom of the falls, but there were just like so many
There's probably
screaming
like 30 kids.
Children that
which is great, but a lot for me.
It was good for them, but I didn't want to camp next to them.
No.
So we continued up the switchbacks to the falls, and then there was like really no campsites that we could see, so we had to keep going until we found just a flat spot and then pitch our tent and then backtrack to get our water. But Carrie said it was a really nice spot.
As Molly said, we found a really nice flat spot kind of tucked up in the trees, which was nice because it's all these switchbacks and the hillside's like pretty steep. Yeah. So at first I was thinking, oh, okay, I guess we're going to go an unknown number of miles
and
tonight.
And then an unknown number of miles back to get water.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the only water spot,
and honestly, we were hoping we could get down to the creek that feeds Galena Falls, but it's basically a cliff, so we're like,
that's not gonna work.
Yeah,
but we
found a beautiful spot.
Yeah, beautiful campsite.
And honestly, another one of those blessings of just things that happen on the trail. We pitched our tent. It was there was some trees, but there weren't a ton.
Yeah.
But then of course that night there was the 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. wind gusts, and I swear our tent was in the only spot that it wasn't gusty. Like you could hear the wind blowing by, but I feel like our tent barely even moved.
Barely even flapped.
Yeah.
So that was super nice.
This was the night that we broke out our soup we had dehydrated.
Yeah.
And we just, rehydrated it by covering it with water, and it seemed like the perfect amount. And we brought some crushed up Ritz crackers in a bag just to increase the calories in the soup. And it was delicious. Like, wow, I thought I was not gonna like it. I was almost afraid of it in a way, but it tasted like real food.
Oh my goodness. It was, and the chicken had the texture of real chicken.
Oh my gosh.
The only thing that didn't rehydrate that well was the corn. I'd almost be tempted to skip the corn.
Oh, I thought it was fine.
We're gonna put the corn in.
Yeah, we're gonna put the corn in. Everything rehydrated really well, in my opinion.
Except for the corn.
And Carrie got some crunchy corn. My corn was great. I loved it. Just put all the corn in my bite, I guess.
And I'm not gonna do that.
Okay. It was really good though. So we had our delicious warm soup. And then it was already dark when we had to go back and get our water. And Carrie and I broke the bank on a drom this year. Mm-hmm. That was one of the recommendations our climbing guide gave us.
That just means like a
dromedary.
Yeah. It's like a 4
We got
liter.
A camel.
Yeah, we got.
It carries water.
It doesn't carry our stuff. We carry that ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a water reservoir.
Yeah,
for 4 liters of water.
And I guess you could put dirty water in it. I don't really know.
Yeah, we just have kept ours clean.
Yeah,
you definitely could put dirty water.
We filter all of our water in it, so then the drom is clean water. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty luxurious to have basically
you don't have
10
to
liters of water. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we filtered at the falls, and there's all these signs that say don't climb on the rocks or anything, and the rocks are super slippery over there. But of course Carrie let me.
Yeah, well, first of
all,
the
one to collect the water.
I'm walking around with basically a cane.
That's true.
Because my foot's having a problem. No, I'll go get the water. You stay safe.
That's amazing.
Oh my god.
And I think in the past we talked about how we would see like a bat or broken glass at our campsites at the JMT.
Oh, yeah.
This one really was spiders. Like, we saw a spider at our campsite the first night. Then there was like this weird like daddy long leg spider when we were filling water, and it was crawling on your pack, but I never told you.
Oh well. Thanks.
But I think it probably went away at some point.
Yeah, well, there's many spiders all over you.
Yeah, but there will be more spiders.
Yeah, oh god, I'm just kidding. Not really. You were covered in spiders day and night. I never said anything. I didn't want to scare you.
Oh,
but we must have seen a bat that night, though, because for some reason, one thing that we did really laugh about that day or that night, I wrote it in my notes and I didn't provide myself enough context to remember, apparently, is for some reason when I was a kid, I read... I think we were just talking about my tenacity. When I was a kid, don't tell me I can't do something, basically. When I was a kid, I read a story about how the only animal that can eat a banana or that can swallow upside down is a bat. And I was like, oh yeah. It's like trying to tell me I can't swallow when I'm upside down. So for whatever reason, I selected a banana, which is like the worst food for swallowing anyways.
And I only to peanut butter.
Yeah. And I laid myself backwards over a chair, and I remember I just kept trying to eat it and see if I could swallow it. And it turns out that I could not.
And I still think I probably could.
Yeah,
but I haven't tried.
I would encourage everyone to probably. I'm not gonna say that because then probably someone will try it and get injured. Yeah.
Nobody try it.
Yeah, no one try it. But if you must, I am gonna tell you right now, it's true that only bats can swallow upside down and not me. I mean, I'm probably gonna go try it right after this. just to see if maybe the problem was I was too young.
I'm gonna try.
I know. So anyway, I think that kind of describes my tenacity. That's what it was in the context was that right. I just kept going, and you're like, yeah, you always just keep going. And
I know, like her foot was a little swollen.
Don't be a scientific research journal telling me I can't swallow upside down.
Because she can.
Because I can.
That's the power of the human spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
The human will.
Yeah, and that's why we go backpacking to find out what we can and can't do.
Exactly.
We can't swallow bananas upside down. Don't go try it. But if you must, let me know if you can swallow upside down and it's just a personal problem of mine. But don't try it.
Carrie wrote we had no water carries this day, but technically we did walk 0.2 of a mile carrying water.
Yeah, I know.
From the falls.
Yeah, it was quite dark out, which is confusing because it was a full moon. Why was it so dark?
I know. It's like, what in the world? But I also wrote this day that, well, because we had service, like always, we could be checking the forecast, and we could see that on Saturday and Sunday there was an increasing chance of precipitation, including snow, around the 8,000 foot mark. And the way our itinerary was working out was kind of Saturday or Sunday we were gonna be at a pass that was 8,800 feet. So, we could take away the stress of a fire, but then add in the stress of oh shoot, it might snow here too.
Yeah.
So there was a decision making aspect of being well, how much do I even look at the forecast? It's days away versus oh my gosh, I'm gonna continuously refresh it.
That's that's good for my battery.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. So this was kind of a big day in terms of we cruised 17 and a half miles. We had our heavier packs because they were closer to the beginning of our trail.
It was fairly high elevation.
High elevation, but we actually, our bodies adjusted pretty well.
Camping above 9,000 feet. And honestly, I tossed and turned a bit, but I would say overall on this trip, I slept very
great
well.
Too.
Which then leads
Confuses me about the John Muir Trail.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm permanently acclimated to elevation now.
I told Carrie because we had driven over some passes.
Yeah, that
maybe we had acclimatized.
Immediately acclimatized.
Because I had told Carrie, why wasn't I fully acclimatized for the JMT when I flew there in an airplane? And to which she responded that it's pressurized, so you don't acclimatize.
You can learn a lot from us. Don't eat bananas. Upside down.
Upside down. Unless you're bad.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Two Sisters on Adventures podcast. And remember, we did not encourage you to try to swallow food upside down. It can't be done, but I could probably do it.
And I'm going to do it right away after we're done with this, just to try. But do not do it.
Under no circumstances. Try to swallow food upside down.
Human beings can't.
Only bats can. And maybe me. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook if you want to see photos or videos of the things that we talked about today. But
Two Sisters on Adventures. Number two. Do not swallow food while hanging upside down because it can't be done.
Can't be done.
Or so they say.
Yeah, bye.